The departures terminal buzzed with noise, rolling suitcases, boarding calls, tired travelers clutching coffee cups. Ethan Ward stood near gate 27, checking his watch for what felt like the 100th time. His flight to New York would board in 40 minutes, and he still hadn't decided whether leaving was the right choice. At 34, Ethan had built the kind of success people only dreamed of. The co-founder of a booming tech company, he had wealth, power, and prestige. Yet standing in that airport, surrounded by people rushing to somewhere or someone, he felt strangely hollow. He tried to push the feeling away, focusing on the numbers in his head, revenue projections, investment deals, but a small, soft sound sliced through the hum of the terminal. A baby's cry. He turned instinctively, eyes scanning for the source. That was when he saw her. Amelia. His chest tightened. She was standing by the coffee kiosk, cradling a small child, maybe a year old, in her arms. Her brown hair, once long and wild, was tied in a loose bun. Her eyes, those same amber eyes that used to pull him in like a magnet, darted nervously as she rocked the baby. Ethan's world stopped moving. It had been nearly 3 years since they'd last seen each other. 3 years since the night she'd walked out of his apartment in tears, saying she couldn't be second to his ambition. He'd told himself she was overreacting. That she'd come back once she realized how much he loved her. But she never did. And now here she was, holding a baby. For a long moment, Ethan just watched. The baby's small fist clutched the collar of her coat. She kissed its forehead gently, whispering something only a mother would say. His heart pounded. Without thinking, he started walking toward her. Amelia. She froze. Her eyes lifted, and when they met his, the color drained from her face. Ethan, she whispered. I didn't think. He smiled awkwardly, words tangling on his tongue. I didn't expect to see you here. It's been, what, years? Almost 3, she said softly, still holding the baby protectively. Wow. He laughed nervously. You look great. Thanks, she murmured. They stood there for a moment, surrounded by people walking past like ghosts in motion. Ethan's eyes drifted to the baby again. He's beautiful, Ethan said gently. Your son. Her arms tightened around the child. Yes. There was hesitation in her voice, something uncertain, fragile. What's his name? Lucas, she said. Lucas. The name hit him in a strange way, as if he'd heard it before, in a dream, or maybe in a plan they'd once made. You always liked that name, he said quietly. She nodded, biting her lip. For a few seconds, silence hung heavy between them, broken only by the baby's soft cooing. Finally, Ethan took a breath. Are you traveling somewhere? She hesitated. Yes. London. Visiting or moving? Moving, she replied after a pause. A fresh start. He nodded slowly. You always talked about going there. Art galleries, old streets, a different life. Her eyes flickered with emotion. Yeah, it just took a while to get there. The baby shifted, fussing a little. She rocked him gently, humming a tune Ethan remembered, a melody she used to sing when she painted late into the night. Ethan felt something twist inside him. He's lucky, he said softly. To have you. She smiled faintly, but there was sadness behind it. Then, before he could stop himself, he asked the question burning in his chest. Amelia, is he? Her eyes darted up. Ethan, don't. Just tell me, he whispered. Is he mine? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked away, eyes glistening. After a long pause, she whispered, we shouldn't talk here. They found a quiet cafe near the terminal. The air smelled of espresso and rain from the open doors nearby. Amelia sat across from him, Lucas asleep in her arms now, a soft blanket covering his tiny face. Ethan couldn't take his eyes off the child. The small nose, the faint dimple near the chin, the same one Ethan saw in the mirror every morning. Finally, Amelia spoke. When I left you, I was angry, confused. You were building your company, and I felt like I didn't matter anymore. You worked 20 hours a day. You missed my exhibitions, my calls, everything. I loved you, but I couldn't breathe in your world. He looked down. I know. I was so focused on the business I didn't see what I was losing. I found out I was pregnant 2 months later, she said softly. Ethan froze. I wanted to tell you, she continued, but every time I tried, something stopped me. You were everywhere, interviews, magazines, awards. You looked happy. And I didn't want to ruin that. I thought maybe it was better if you never knew. He stared at her, shock flooding his chest. You kept my child from me. Tears welled in her eyes. Ethan, it wasn't like that. I was scared. I didn't know if you'd even want him. You once said children didn't fit into your life, not until you had everything perfect. He swallowed hard. That was true. He'd said those exact words once, after a long night at the office. But seeing Lucas now, the tiny hand resting on Amelia's chest, nothing else in the world seemed more perfect. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. How old is he? 14 months. He did the math. That meant, he felt tears burn behind his eyes. You should have told me. I know. Does he? His voice broke. Does he know who I am? She shook her head. No. I told him his father loved him very much, but he couldn't be here. Ethan's heart cracked open. He wanted to be angry, to shout, to demand why she took that choice from him. But looking at her, exhausted yet fiercely protective, he couldn't. Instead, he whispered, "Can I hold him?" Amelia hesitated, then slowly handed Lucas over. The baby stirred, blinking up at Ethan with sleepy eyes. For the first time in his life, Ethan Ward, the man who conquered boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, felt utterly powerless. Lucas blinked again and smiled. And just like that, the walls around Ethan's heart crumbled. They talked for hours, about the years apart, about what went wrong, about what could have been. Amelia told him about the small apartment she'd rented, the freelance work she did to get by, the nights she painted while Lucas slept beside her crib. Ethan told her about the emptiness that success couldn't fill, the countless times he'd opened their old photos and wondered why life had felt brighter back then. When the final boarding call for her flight to London echoed through the speakers, Amelia sighed. I guess that's me. Ethan stood, still holding Lucas. Stay, he said suddenly. She looked at him, startled. Stay here, he continued. With me. Let me be part of his life. Let me make things right. Her eyes softened, but her voice trembled. Ethan, I can't just uproot everything again. I've built a life for him. Stability. Routine. I can give him that, he insisted. And I can give you more than I ever did before. Not money, time, love, everything I failed to give. She shook her head gently. It's not that simple. Maybe not, he said, taking a deep breath. But maybe it's worth trying. Amelia looked at Lucas sleeping peacefully in Ethan's arms. Her heart ached, torn between the man who'd broken her heart and the father her son deserved. I need time, she said finally. He nodded. Take all you need. But I'll wait. However long it takes. 3 weeks later, Ethan was in his office when he received a small envelope. Inside was a photograph, Amelia and Lucas at a park, both smiling. On the back, in her handwriting, were 4 words that made his chest tighten. Come meet us tomorrow. He didn't think twice. When he arrived at the park the next morning, the air was cool and bright. Amelia was sitting on a bench, Lucas toddling beside her. When Lucas saw Ethan, his little face lit up. Da! The boy squealed. Ethan froze. What did he just? Amelia smiled through tears. He's been saying it since yesterday. Ethan dropped to his knees, arms open as Lucas wobbled into them. He held his son tightly, laughter and tears spilling at once. Amelia watched them, heart full. She sat beside them, her hand brushing Ethan's. I was scared, she whispered. But maybe we both deserve a second chance. Ethan turned to her, eyes shining. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that we do. He leaned in, and for the first time in 3 years, they kissed, not with the fire of new love, but with the warmth of something rediscovered, fragile yet unbreakable. Months passed. Amelia and Lucas moved back into the city. She began painting again, this time with a lightness in her brush that Ethan hadn't seen before. Ethan rearranged his life, fewer meetings, more mornings spent making pancakes with his son, more nights watching Amelia paint under the soft hum of jazz. But fate had one last twist. One evening, as they packed for a family trip to London, the city Amelia once dreamed of, Ethan received a call from his lawyer. Ethan, you might want to see this. There's been an error in the company audit. Someone's been embezzling funds under your name. His chest went cold. The investigation unfolded quickly. A former partner had been siphoning money, forging documents, framing Ethan in the process. Overnight, the man who had it all became the face of scandal. Amelia watched the headlines with fear, but Ethan's calm never wavered. I'll fix it, he told her. I just need you to believe in me. I do, she said, taking his hand. Weeks turned into months. Through hearings, accusations, and public scrutiny, Amelia stood by him. When the truth finally came out, when Ethan was cleared and his partner arrested, reporters asked how he endured it. He simply smiled and said, because for the first time, I had something worth fighting for. A year later, on a quiet summer morning, Ethan stood at the airport once again, this time holding Lucas's tiny hand as Amelia checked their passports. Funny, she said, smiling. Airports used to mean goodbyes for us. Ethan squeezed her hand. Not anymore. Lucas tugged at his sleeve. Daddy, plane go. Soon, Ethan said, lifting him into his arms. But this time, we're all going together. As they walked toward the gate, Amelia glanced back one last time at the terminal where their story had begun, where pain had turned to forgiveness, and where love had quietly returned, stronger than before. She whispered, "Thank you for finding us." Ethan smiled. "I never stopped looking." The announcement came, Flight 304 to London now boarding. They stepped forward, hand in hand, hearts finally unburdened. The man who once believed love could wait had learned the most powerful truth of all, that sometimes, the best journeys begin with the people you almost lost. And as the plane rose into the sky, leaving the past below, Ethan glanced at Amelia and Lucas beside him and thought. He'd missed many flights before. But this time, he was exactly where he was meant to be.